Have you ever walked past a stranger and felt like your soul recognized theirs before your mind caught up? What if that stranger was a 5-year-old child asking you to become her mother for a single day? Would you have the courage to say yes, knowing it might shatter every wall you've built around your grief? Before you answer, let me tell you about the day Nicole Harper's carefully constructed numbness collided with a little girl's desperate hope, and how one impossible question changed 2 broken lives forever. The blood on Nicole Harper's hands wouldn't wash away. She stood at the bathroom sink of Manchester Royal Infirmary, scrubbing until her skin turned raw, watching pink water spiral down the drain, but the feeling remained. The metallic smell, the weight of her daughter's final breath against her chest, the terrible, eternal silence that followed. That was 4 years ago, but time had done nothing except prove that some wounds don't heal, they just learn to hide better. Now, on a bitter November morning that tasted like ash and regret, Nicole stood outside a dilapidated bedding shop converted into a makeshift cafe, holding a chipped mug of tea she couldn't remember purchasing. The liquid had gone cold an hour ago, but she kept lifting it to her lips anyway, going through motions that mimicked living without actually requiring her to feel anything. She'd perfected this performance over 48 months of surviving when surviving felt like the cruelest punishment imaginable. Nicole had once been someone, a primary school deputy head, a wife to Thomas, who'd loved her with the kind of steadfast devotion that made their friends envious, a mother to 8-year-old Rosie, who'd inherited her copper curls and her father's devastating smile. They'd lived in a semi-detached house in Stockport with a garden where Rosie grew sunflowers that towered over her head. Nicole had believed, with the naive certainty of the fortunate, that good things happened to good people, that love was a shield against tragedy, that her family was untouchable. Then came the headaches Rosie dismissed as nothing, the dizzy spells they attributed to growth spurts, the seizure that shattered their world at 3 in the morning. The brain tumor diagnosis that arrived with words like inoperable and weeks, not months attached. Rosie died on a Tuesday in March, holding both their hands, asking if the sunflowers would bloom without her there to see them. Thomas had tried to hold them together, had begged Nicole to go to therapy, to take the medication, to please just come back to him. But how could she explain that she'd died too? That the woman he'd married had flatlined the moment Rosie's heart monitor went silent? That this hollow thing wearing her face was just an echo? 6 months after they buried their daughter, Thomas buried their marriage, unable to watch Nicole disappear into grief's undertow without at least trying to save himself. Nicole didn't blame him. She blamed herself for every single thing. For not noticing the tumor sooner. For every time she'd been impatient when Rosie wanted one more story. For surviving when her child didn't. The guilt was an entity living inside her chest, feeding on her from the inside out, and she welcomed it because at least it was something to feel. She'd lost the house, then the job when she stopped showing up, then her dignity in increments too small to notice until she was sleeping in hostels and picking through donation bins. She worked occasional cleaning shifts that paid cash, avoided mirrors and memories with equal desperation, and measured her days by how successfully she managed not to think about Rosie. Most days she failed spectacularly. As Nicole stood there, staring at nothing, her peripheral vision snagged on movement across the narrow street. A small figure pressed against the wrought iron gates of Crossfield Primary School, so still she might have been carved from stone. The child was tiny, drowning in a burgundy school jumper 2 sizes too large, with pale blonde hair scraped into 2 wonky plaits tied with fraying red ribbons. She clutched something. As Nicole stood there, staring at nothing, her peripheral vision snagged on movement across the narrow street. A small figure pressed against the wrought iron gates of Crossfield Primary School, so still she might have been carved from stone. The child was tiny, drowning in a burgundy school jumper 2 sizes too large, with pale blonde hair scraped into 2 wonky plaits tied with fraying red ribbons. She clutched something white against her chest with both hands, her small face tilted upward, scanning the thinning crowd of parents collecting their children. Nicole watched families swirl and eddy around the little girl like water flowing past a rock. Mothers crouched to adjust scarves and wipe noses. Fathers swung book bags over shoulders while discussing tea plans. Older siblings dragged younger ones toward car parks with practiced efficiency. The crowd thinned, then thinned further, until only the girl remained, her small body seeming to shrink into itself as the minutes stretched and nobody came. Something ancient and terrible stirred in Nicole's chest, recognition like calling to like across an impossible distance. She knew that particular brand of alone, that specific flavor of abandonment that tastes like swallowing glass. That moment when hope curdles into resignation and you have to decide whether to keep waiting or accept that nobody's coming. Nicole told herself to look away, to finish her cold tea, to keep walking. She had nothing to offer anyone, least of all a child. She was barely human anymore, just a collection of survival instincts and self-loathing held together by spite and muscle memory. Getting involved meant feeling, and feeling meant remembering, and remembering meant the kind of pain that made you understand why some people just stop. But her feet betrayed her better judgment, carrying her across the wet pavement before her brain could mount adequate resistance. She stopped 3 meters from the gates, suddenly paralyzed by uncertainty. What was she doing? She was homeless, mentally shattered, a woman who'd failed at the only job that mattered. She had no business approaching someone else's child. This was madness. Then the little girl's head turned. Their eyes met, and the world contracted to just that moment, that connection, that instant of mutual recognition between two souls drowning in their separate oceans. The child saw something in Nicole's face that made her take 3 hesitant steps forward, her scuffed shoes scraping against concrete. Before we continue, I need you to pause and really consider this. How many times have you walked past someone who needed help because getting involved felt too complicated, too risky, too much? What if that one moment of courage could save not just them, but you too? If you believe that broken people can heal each other, that second chances hide in ordinary moments, and that love is braver than fear, then please, right now, like this video, share it with someone whose heart forgot how to hope. Subscribe to our channel because these stories, these real moments of transformative human connection, they matter. Your support means we can keep telling them. Now let's continue. The child held out the white paper, and Nicole could see now it was a handmade invitation decorated with wobbly stars drawn in purple crayon. When the girl spoke, her voice was so quiet Nicole almost missed it. A whisper scraped raw by too many disappointments. "Excuse me, I know this sounds strange, but would you be willing to come to my graduation ceremony? Just for today. Just so I'm not the only one without anybody there." The words detonated in Nicole's chest like a grenade. For several seconds, she forgot how to breathe, how to blink, how to exist. She stared at this tiny, brave stranger, certain she'd misheard, desperate to have misheard. "Why me?" Nicole managed to force out, her voice cracking on both words. The little girl's eyes, gray as storm clouds, filled with something far too old for her face. She looked down at her shoes, at the pavement, at anywhere except Nicole's face. "Because you looked lonely too," she said, so quietly it was almost lost to the wind. "Because everyone else has somebody and I thought maybe we could pretend, just for an hour, that we both do. My mom can't ever come to things. She works all the time at the hospital, and I know she tries really hard, but she's never there when it matters, and today's my reception graduation, and I'm the only person in my whole class without anyone, and I just thought." The sentence dissolved, but the desperate hope in those gray eyes completed it. Nicole felt something inside her chest, something she'd thought permanently calcified, crack down the middle. This child reminded her of Rosie, not in looks but in essence, in that particular brand of courage that children possess before the world teaches them to stop asking for what they need, in the vulnerability of hoping despite evidence that hope is dangerous. Every instinct screamed at Nicole to run, to protect herself, to protect this child from the black hole of grief she carried everywhere. She couldn't do this. She shouldn't do this. She would fail this little girl just like she'd failed Rosie, just like she'd failed Thomas, just like she'd failed everyone who'd ever made the mistake of depending on her. But when Nicole opened her mouth to say no, to apologize, to explain why this was impossible, different words emerged instead. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The girl's posture straightened slightly, as if being asked her name granted her substance she'd been missing. "Maisie Charlotte Harper," she said, then added quickly, "Harper's my mum's maiden name. She went back to it after my dad left. Something electric shot through Nicole's nervous system. Harper, the same surname as hers, as if fate was signing its work, leaving fingerprints all over this impossible moment. Well, Maisie Charlotte Harper, Nicole said, her voice thick with tears she'd spent 4 years refusing to cry. I would be deeply honored to attend your graduation ceremony. The transformation of Maisie's face was like watching the sun rise after an eternal night. Her smile started small, tentative, testing whether this was real or another disappointment disguised as hope. Then it bloomed, radiant and devastating, and Nicole felt her carefully constructed armor shatter completely. Maisie pressed the invitation into Nicole's hand with both of hers, her small fingers warm and alive and real. It's tomorrow at 11 o'clock, Maisie explained, words tumbling over each other in her eagerness. In the assembly hall. There'll be balloons outside, red and gold ones, those are our school colors. You can't miss it. Will you really come? You promise you won't forget? I promise, Nicole said, and meant it with a ferocity that terrified her. I'll be there. That night, Nicole lay awake in the women's shelter on a cot that smelled like institutional detergent and other people's despair. The invitation propped against the small locker beside her bed. The ceiling was water-stained, cracked in patterns that might have been maps to places that no longer existed. She didn't see any of it. Her mind was 4 years in the past, replaying the greatest hits of her guilt and loss. Rosie's laugh, bright and uncomplicated, when they baked together and she'd deliberately get flour on Nicole's nose. Her small hand slipping into Nicole's, trusting and certain, as they walked to the park. Her drowsy voice at bedtime. Tell me the story about the girl who found magic in ordinary things, Mummy. The one where she saves everyone. The way she'd looked at Nicole on that final day, eyes already seeing something beyond this world, whispering, Don't be sad forever, Mummy. Promise me you'll find happy again. Nicole had broken that promise for 4 years straight. She'd worn her grief like armor, had used it as permission to stop trying, to stop hoping, to stop living. But somehow, impossibly, Maisie's desperate question had done what therapy and medication and her husband's pleas couldn't. It had cracked open the tomb Nicole had built around her heart and let in one single, fragile shaft of light. The next morning, Nicole took the £7.50 she'd been saving for reasons she couldn't articulate and walked to the Oxfam charity shop 4 streets over. She found a navy cardigan with all its buttons intact and a cream blouse with a tiny coffee stain near the collar that would be hidden if she wore the cardigan over it. Nothing matched, nothing fit quite right, but they were clean and whole, and that felt significant. She was doing this for Maisie, yes, but also for Rosie, for the promise she'd broken, for the mother she used to be before grief hollowed her out. When Nicole arrived at Crossfield Primary School at 11:15 the next morning, the assembly hall was controlled chaos wrapped in excitement and noise. Parents wielded smartphones like weapons, documenting everything. Grandparents clutched bouquets that were bigger than the children they'd come to celebrate. Teachers attempted to herd miniature humans in makeshift graduation gowns into something resembling organized lines. Nicole pressed herself against the back wall, feeling like an imposter, an intruder in this world of belonging and normal family structures. Then she saw Maisie, 4th from the left in the front row, her face serious with concentration as she listened to her teacher's whispered instructions. As if pulled by invisible thread, Maisie's head turned, her eyes scanning the packed hall with practiced efficiency. When their gazes locked, Maisie's entire being lit up from within, a transformation so complete it hurt to witness. Her small hand came up in a shy wave, and Nicole felt tears she'd been fighting since yesterday break free and stream down her face. This child had chosen her. Out of 7 billion people on this planet, this brave little soul had looked at a broken stranger outside a school gate and seen not damage but possibility. Had offered Nicole not pity but purpose. Had handed her a reason to feel human again when she'd spent 4 years perfecting the art of feeling nothing. When the head teacher called Maisie's name, she walked across that stage with her chin lifted, her small hands clutching a rolled certificate tied with gold ribbon. She looked directly at Nicole the entire time. her expression radiating such pure joy and gratitude that Nicole had to press her fist against her mouth to keep from sobbing aloud. This moment, this ordinary moment that happened thousands of times in thousands of schools, was the most extraordinary thing Nicole had witnessed since watching her daughter take her first steps 8 years prior. After the ceremony dissolved into chaos, Nicole started to make her way through the crowd, intending to congratulate Maisie and then disappear back into the anonymous gray of her existence. Her brief moment of purpose fulfilled. She'd kept her promise. That was enough. It had to be enough because she had nothing else to offer. But before she'd taken 3 steps, a small body collided with hers at velocity. Maisie's arms wrapped around Nicole's waist, squeezing with surprising strength, her face pressed against Nicole's cardigan. "You came," Maisie said, her voice muffled but thick with emotion that seemed too large for her small body. "I was so scared you wouldn't. I kept looking at the door thinking maybe I'd imagined you. Maybe I'd dreamed you. Maybe you'd remembered you had more important things to do." Nicole's hands found Maisie's small shoulders, then pulled her closer, no longer caring who saw or what they thought. The tears she'd been holding back broke free completely. "I gave you my word, didn't I?" Nicole whispered fiercely. "And I always keep my promises." "Maisie Grace." Both Nicole and Maisie turned toward the sharp voice cutting through the ambient celebration. A woman in her late 20s rushed toward them, her dark hair falling from a hasty ponytail, her nurse's scrubs visible beneath an unbuttoned winter coat. She looked utterly exhausted, the kind of bone-deep weariness that comes from running on fumes for so long you forget what actual rest feels like. Her eyes, the same gray as Maisie's, were shadowed with dark circles and creased with guilt so profound it was almost visible. Maisie's body went rigid in Nicole's embrace. The woman, clearly Maisie's mother, stopped a meter away, her expression cycling rapidly through relief, shame, confusion, and something that might have been gratitude if it weren't so tangled with self-recrimination. "Baby, I'm so incredibly sorry," she said, her voice cracking on the words. "There was an emergency, a 3-car pileup on the M60, and they called me in early, and I tried to get away, but I couldn't just leave patients bleeding on tables, and I called your gran, but she's down with that chest infection again. And I rang the school to explain, but by the time I got through you'd already gone in, and I just..." She stopped herself, visibly collecting the pieces of her composure. Her gaze shifted to Nicole properly for the first time, confusion clouding her features. "I'm sorry, who are you exactly?" Before Nicole could formulate any kind of response, Maisie spoke up, her small voice clear and defiant. "This is Nicole. She's my friend. She came because you promised you would, but you didn't." The words landed like physical blows. Nicole watched Maisie's mother flinch, watched her face crumple before she managed to school it back into something resembling control. The silence that followed was heavy with 4 years' worth of broken promises, of good intentions crushed beneath the weight of impossible circumstances, of love expressed through absence because survival demanded it. "I'm Emma," the woman said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked at Nicole with eyes that held entire worlds of pain and exhaustion. "Emma Harper, and I know what you must be thinking, that I'm a terrible mother, that my daughter deserves better. And you're absolutely right on both counts, but I need you to understand something. I work 60-hour weeks at Manchester Royal Infirmary because Maisie's father left when she was 18 months old with half our savings and all of my trust. My mum tries to help, but she's 74 with COPD and can't manage a full day with a 5-year-old. Childcare costs more than I earn some weeks. I haven't slept properly in 3 years. And I try, God help me, I try so hard to be everything she needs. But I keep failing her in all the ways that matter. So thank you, genuinely. Thank you for being here when I couldn't be." Again, Nicole felt something crack open in her chest. Not pity, recognition. She saw herself in Emma's desperate explanation, in that need to be understood, to be seen as trying despite failing by every visible metric. She'd used those same justifications with Thomas, had begged him to see that she was drowning, that she was doing her best, that her best just wasn't enough anymore. "You're not failing," Nicole said, her voice steady despite the tears still tracking down her face. You're surviving impossible circumstances and keeping a roof over her head and food in her belly. That's not nothing. That's everything. Emma's face crumpled completely then. She sank to her knees and pulled Maisie into a fierce embrace, whispering apologies that only her daughter could hear, pressing kisses to the top of her head, like she could somehow retroactively fix every moment she'd missed. Nicole stepped back, preparing to fade into the background, to let this family have their moment. She'd done what she promised. She'd shown up. That was all anyone could have asked of her. But then she felt a tug on her sleeve. "Will you visit me?" Maisie asked, her small face tilted up at Nicole, hopeful and uncertain in equal measure. Like properly? Not just once. Nicole's breath caught. She glanced at Emma, expecting resistance or suspicion or at minimum a polite brush-off. Instead, Emma looked at her with eyes that held something desperate and hopeful. "Please do," Emma said quietly. "I think we'd both benefit from having someone like you around. Someone who shows up." The words were a punch to the gut and a lifeline thrown in equal measure. Someone who shows up. As if Nicole, who'd spent 4 years barely showing up for herself, could be that for anyone else. It was absurd, impossible, terrifying. "I'd like that very much," Nicole heard herself say. "If you're certain." "I'm certain," Emma said. And judging by Maisie's face, I'd say she's certain too. What unfolded over the following weeks was strange and fragile and entirely unprecedented. Nicole started volunteering at Crossfield Primary 3 afternoons a week, helping in the school library during lunch periods. She'd read stories to small groups of children who gathered at her feet, their faces tilted up in rapt attention, their belief in happy endings still intact. Maisie was always there, her presence a constant warm point in Nicole's gradually defrosting world. They developed rituals that neither of them named but both understood were sacred. Thursday afternoons meant the corner shop where Maisie always chose raspberry ripple ice cream and Nicole always chose vanilla. And they'd sit on the bench outside discussing important matters like whether dragons were more or less real than dinosaurs and why clouds didn't fall down. Saturday mornings meant the public library, where they'd lose themselves in picture books and fairy tales and atlases, planning imaginary adventures to places neither had ever been. Through these small, repeated acts of connection, Nicole found herself changing in ways she hadn't thought possible. She started attending the counseling sessions offered at the women's shelter, actually participating instead of just sitting there counting minutes until she could leave. She applied for part-time work and was hired at a second-hand bookshop in Chorlton, shelving books and ringing up customers and slowly, painfully, bravely rebuilding something that resembled a life. She wasn't healed, wasn't whole. The grief was still there, would always be there, a constant companion that colored everything. But she was moving forward for the first time in 4 years, and that felt like a miracle worth acknowledging. One Saturday afternoon, Maisie arrived at the bookshop with something hidden behind her back, her small face serious with the weight of whatever she was carrying. She approached the counter where Nicole was pricing a box of donated paperbacks and held out her offering with both hands, ceremonial and solemn. "I made this for you," Maisie said simply, "because you're important." Nicole unfolded the paper to reveal a crayon drawing. 2 figures stood beneath a tree heavy with red apples, their hands joined between them. One figure was tall with brown hair in a ponytail. One was small with yellow ribbons. In the sky above them, Maisie had drawn a third figure, smaller, with wings and a halo and copper-colored curls. And across the top, in Maisie's careful, wobbly lettering, were the words, "My other mummy who is extra special." Nicole's vision blurred completely as tears spilled over, splashing onto the counter and the drawing. She pressed the paper to her chest, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what this child had given her. Not replacement, not forgetting, but permission to love again, to be loved again, without diminishing what came before. Maisie had somehow understood what Nicole hadn't managed to articulate even to herself. That hearts expand, they don't subdivide. That new love doesn't erase old love. That both can coexist in the same space, making each other possible rather than impossible. "This is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me," Nicole whispered, her voice breaking. Thank you, Maisie. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. You were never invisible, Maisie said solemnly. You were just waiting for someone to look properly. Months passed, marked by small victories and quiet transformations. Emma's shifts stabilized as she moved to 4 12-hour days instead of 6 10s, prioritizing time with Maisie over marginal extra income. The three of them had dinner together every Tuesday evening. An unlikely family formed from necessity and grief and circumstance, and something that felt dangerously close to hope. Emma and Nicole became friends, bound by their shared love for Maisie and their mutual understanding of what it meant to survive impossible things while pretending everything was fine. They'd sit at Emma's small kitchen table after Maisie went to bed, drinking tea that had gone cold while they talked about everything and nothing, finding comfort in being understood without having to explain. Nicole officially became Maisie's mentor through the school's family friend program, making their relationship formal and permanent. They visited parks and museums, attended school plays and birthday parties, built a shared history one moment at a time. Maisie's dream was to become a children's doctor so she could help kids not be scared. Nicole's dream, tentatively voiced for the first time in years, was to open her own bookshop someday. A cozy space filled with stories that proved broken things could be beautiful. On a bright morning in March, 4 years to the day after Rosie's death, Nicole took the bus to Stockport Cemetery for the first time since the funeral. She brought flowers, sunflowers because they'd been Rosie's favorite, and the drawing Maisie had made. She knelt beside the small headstone with its heartbreaking dates and carefully propped the drawing against the marble, right next to Rosie's name. "Hello, my darling girl," Nicole said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "I've got someone I want you to meet. Her name is Maisie Charlotte Harper, and she's the bravest person I've ever known besides you. She found me when I was lost. She asked me to be her mum for one day, and somehow that one day turned into every single day since. I think you would have adored her, Rosie. I think you would have taught her how to grow sunflowers and make them reach the sky. The wind moved through the trees overhead, carrying the scent of fresh earth and early spring blooms. A robin landed on a nearby headstone, cocked its head as if listening, then flew away toward something only it could see. Nicole sat there for a long while, talking to her daughter, introducing her to the life she was slowly, painfully, courageously building in the ruins. "I'll always love you most," Nicole whispered finally. "You'll always be my first miracle, my greatest joy, my biggest what if. But Maisie's teaching me something I didn't think I'd ever learn. That surviving your death doesn't mean I'm betraying your life. That loving her doesn't mean I loved you less. That my heart's big enough for both of you, and having her here makes missing you hurt less somehow. And I really think you'd want that for me. You always wanted me to be happy. Even at the end, that's what you asked for. So I'm trying, baby. I'm really, really trying." She stayed until the sun climbed higher, until the ache in her chest felt more like remembrance than devastation, until she could breathe around the weight of her loss without feeling like she was suffocating. Then she stood, pressed her fingers to her lips, touched them to Rosie's name carved forever in stone, and walked back toward the world of the living. That evening, Nicole and Maisie sat in the small garden behind Emma's terraced house, their backs against the warm brick wall, watching clouds drift across the deepening sky like ships sailing toward horizons they couldn't name. Maisie's small hand found Nicole's larger one, their fingers interlacing with practiced ease born of repetition and trust. "Nicole," Maisie said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of something important. "Yes, love. I'm really glad I was brave that day. Outside school, when I was lonely and scared and I saw you looking sad and I asked you my impossible question. I'm glad we found each other. I'm glad you said yes." Nicole squeezed the small hand in hers, her throat tight with emotion that felt clean and honest and earned. "So am I, sweetheart. So am I. Life has a peculiar way of mending what's shattered. It doesn't always restore what was taken or return what was lost. It doesn't promise that the pain will disappear or that the grief will ever truly end. But sometimes, if you're lucky, if you're brave enough to stay open despite having every reason to close, if you're willing to believe that broken things can still hold beautiful things, life offers something new, something unexpected, something that fills the emptiness in ways you never anticipated and couldn't have imagined." Nicole never thought she'd hear someone call her mom again after Rosie died. Yet every time Maisie whispered it, the word carried the same sacred weight, the same profound truth. Love, it turned out, was infinite and elastic and impossibly generous. There was always room for more. Always. If the story resonated with you, if it reminded you that kindness changes everything and that broken people can heal each other and that second chances hide in ordinary moments disguised as impossible questions, then please, right now, like this video. Share it with someone whose heart forgot how to hope. Subscribe to our channel so we can keep telling these stories of real human connection that prove we're never as alone as we think we are. Your support means these stories reach the people who need them most. Before you leave, please comment below and tell us honestly. Would you have said yes if a lonely child asked you to be their parent for one day? Because sometimes, one small yes to one scared question can heal two hearts that have been waiting far too long to remember what whole feels like. As Nicole and Maisie sat together in the gathering dusk, two souls bound by loss and love and extraordinary ordinary courage, the world around them seemed gentler somehow, softer, more forgiving, and infinitely, impossibly, beautifully worth staying alive for.